Tonight, a pinpoint lunar landing. Japan makes a targeted touchdown on the moon.
He has landed.
A giant leap for space technology.
We're shifting now from landing where we can to landing where we want.
But a mission limited by power problems. Not guilty, a mother acquitted in the death of her disabled daughter.
Our time as a family to start healing.
Oh my God, it's on fire.
Also, mid-flight emergencies, one plane in flames and another lands on a highway. Plus, coping with winter's grip on the West. And taking stock of a retail slump.
Customers are definitely more price sensitive.
The impact of a spending slowdown.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. The latest mission to the moon is being celebrated as an historic moment as Japan becomes the 5th country to reach the lunar surface. The milestone putting the country's space program in an elite club as its moon sniper was testing pinpoint landing technology. The touchdown comes only 10 days after a moon mission by a U.S. private company failed. CTV's Scott Hurst on what it means for space exploration.
A moonshot for Japan that had space fans glued to their screens watching these displays in real time as it attempted a pinpoint touchdown on the lunar surface.
This is really opening up a new horizon.
The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency confirming a successful landing, but not without complications, saying the solar generators were not working, meaning the landing vehicle, about the size of a food truck, was relying entirely on batteries.
New technology we're demonstrating here is not just pinpoint landing, it's also two-staged landing that enables you to land even in a slope region.
An historic moment as the country takes its own giant leap in the space race, just the 5th nation to achieve this success, joining the U.S., Soviet Union, China, and India. But this one was different.
A normal landing for a mooncraft would be on the order of several kilometers. This is picking a spot within 100 meters of what they chose back on Earth.
Nicknamed Moon Sniper because of its ability to make such a precise landing.
It is smart enough to look at the surface of the moon, look at those craters, use machine learning to understand where the craters are, then compare that pattern of craters to all the maps it has in its memory and figure out where it is. And then as it gets closer, to look out and watch out for those boulders.
Despite a recent delay announced with the Artemis program, NASA has plans to send a crew, including Canadian Jeremy Hansen, around the moon by 2025 and ultimately have humans set foot on the lunar surface again by the end of the decade. This closely watched Japanese mission also comes less than 2 weeks after a moon landing attempt by a private U.S. company failed when the spacecraft named Peregrine developed a fuel leak hours after launch. Japan is increasingly looking to play a bigger role in space, and this landing technology, according to the Japanese Space Agency, could become a powerful tool in future exploration. Heather.
Scott, thanks for this. The end of a long legal battle for a Toronto mother who had been fighting to prove her innocence for more than a decade. Originally convicted of killing her severely disabled daughter, Cindy Ali was acquitted today of a first-degree murder charge at a retrial. CTV's Kamala Kramali reports.
Cindy Ali left the downtown Toronto courthouse to applause. It wasn't just friends and family, but today justice was also on her side.
Hey, it feels good to be free.
In the courtroom, cheers, cries of amen as the judge read the decision. Justice Jane Kelly said the evidence left her in a state of reasonable doubt as to Mrs. Ali's guilt.
I was very emotional to think that it's finally happening, that it's finally going to be finished. And
In 2016, Ali was convicted in the death of her 16-year-old daughter, Sinara, and sentenced to life in prison. The mother claimed her severely disabled daughter, who had cerebral palsy, died during a home invasion in 2011, when she found her motionless with one of the intruders standing above her with a pillow. The Crown had argued it was Cindy Ali who smothered her own daughter in an act of mercy to relieve her from her suffering.
The problem with the Crown's case was there was a lack of motive. There was no motive for Cindy Ali to harm her child.
In 2021, Ali appealed that conviction and was granted a new trial that began this past October. Now found not guilty of first-degree murder, the judge deeming the Crown was not able to prove any of its theories.
I've learned that police can rush to judgment, as they did in this case.
Now it's our time as a family to start healing and, trying to put some normalcy back in our lives.
That healing can now happen in peace. Toronto police indicating they will not be reopening their investigation, saying the criminal justice system worked as it was designed to. Heather.
All right, Kamal, thank you. The partner of the man behind Canada's worst mass stabbings spoke out today.
We have to fend for ourselves. We have nowhere to go. We have no money, no job. We have kids. So it's really challenging.
An inquest into the murders on James Smith Cree Nation heard that Miles Sanderson showed psychopathic traits and planned the stabbings. Vanessa Burns said she suffered years of abuse at the hands of her partner, including days before he killed 11 people in September 2022. Sanderson later died in police custody. Health officials in BC are warning about an alarming increase in severe cases of strep A. 4 children under the age of 10 have died since mid-December.
And I think one of the things that's driving all of this is a very poor uptake of COVID and influenza vaccination this year.
All 4 young patients also had the flu or other viruses alongside the strep infection. BC's Centre for Disease Control says there were 3 times as many strep A cases in people under the age of 20 last year than the previous year. The wicked weather in Western Canada may be on its way out, with snow turning to rain, though the treacherous conditions have led to tragedy. Here's CTV's Jill Makashon.
In Vancouver, commuter chaos for a 3rd day in a row as heavy snow turned to freezing rain. The dangerous conditions, the snow and a dark highway contributed to the death of 31-year-old Anthony Hutzel. He was on his way to work early Thursday morning when he slid into a ditch. He walked away from his vehicle and was hit by a pickup truck equipped with a plow.
He was an absolutely devoted father. He loved his little boy so much.
The storm dumped more than 30 centimeters of snow in Vancouver and more than 10 centimeters in Victoria. It is making life more difficult for the unsheltered. Extra beds were needed for those coming in off the streets.
We tried to get them through the day. We tried to keep them dry, warm, fed, and keep them alive.
In Calgary, the cold led to cracked and frozen pipes, water main breaks impacting service to more than 220 homes and businesses. The wicked cold that has gripped the West for more than a week now will finally move off, bringing more seasonal norms.
That polar vortex for now is returning home to where it belongs, and El Nino has come back. It's certainly going to be milder, more comfortable in the next week or so.
In Edmonton, where temperatures dipped to minus 34 and colder 5 days in a row, Joe Chawanik embraced the cold. A professional photographer, he captured these images frozen in time.
So boiling hot Mr. Noodles, hold the chopsticks outside with the noodles, and literally 60 seconds I could pull my hand away and it was frozen solid.
Videos that have amazed the world, broadcast in Puerto Rico, Spain, across the Middle East, in places where this kind of cold is a mystery.
Enjoy it. We're Canadian, and enjoy what we have. A lot of people don't get to experience this.
Vancouver will see more rain, but warmer weather next week, and across much of the prairies, expect a return to the minus single digits. Heather?
Jill Makashon in Winnipeg, where it's expected to be minus 23 tonight. Thanks, Jill. For a closer look at the varying conditions playing out across the country, we turn to CTV Atlantic Chief Meteorologist Kaylin Mitchell.
Thank you, Heather. Well, after significant snow and freezing rain this week into the south coast of BC, the next series of weather systems moving in off the Pacific looks like it's mostly going to be winter rain. Still, more snow is expected throughout the next week into the interior British Columbia and up into the mountains. As far as the bitter cold goes, it was in place through parts of the prairies today, triggered some extreme cold warnings. There'll be some improvement to southern parts of the prairie provinces moving through the upcoming weekend as a little ridge in the jet stream builds through. Colder air still in place, but not as bitterly cold as it has been over the last week and a bit. There'll still be some areas getting into some lake effect snow squalls in parts of southern Ontario heading into the start of the weekend, including up near Wasaga Beach, maybe close to Barrie as well, down towards Strathroy and back towards the lake shores of Lake Huron. In Atlantic Canada, snow squalls improving into the start of the weekend for areas of Newfoundland. More snow expected up into the Cape Breton Highlands. Heather.
Kaylin, thank you. Now to tensions in the Middle East as the Israeli Prime Minister rejected renewed calls for a two-state solution. Cracks in Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet are starting to show. CTV's Kevin Gallagher has more.
The Israeli military released video of Hamas tunnels being demolished as it continues to target the militant group that still holds more than 130 hostages. In some cases, Israeli defense forces are searching Palestinian graveyards, exhuming tombs, acting on intelligence they say indicates bodies of Israeli hostages could be there.
The whole process, the bodies are treated respectfully.
The IDF says if the bodies are confirmed not to be hostages, they are returned with the same respect. Palestinians object to the damage inflicted upon their places of mourning, with CNN obtaining satellite footage of 16 cemeteries damaged or destroyed since the start of the war.
Cemeteries are not military objectives. They are, in fact, what international law would consider an object that is normally dedicated to civilian purposes, like places of worship.
In Tel Aviv, demonstrators urged the Israeli government to do more to free the remaining hostages. A member of the war cabinet dismissed calls to rescue them by force as too dangerous. Gadi Eisenkot says a ceasefire is needed, putting him at odds with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Netanyahu's strategy is quite extremist. He wants to eliminate Hamas, but not just the capability of Hamas to fight, but eliminate Hamas. And Hamas is a political party.
Tonight, after a call with the Israeli Prime Minister, U.S. President Joe Biden didn't rule out Netanyahu agreeing to a Palestinian state after the war.
There are a number of types of two-state solutions.
It's been nearly a month since Biden spoke with the Israeli Prime Minister. Their talks also focused on humanitarian aid to Gaza and securing the release of hostages. Heather?
Thanks, Kevin. More legal troubles for Alec Baldwin tonight. A grand jury in New Mexico has indicted the actor on an involuntary manslaughter charge in connection with the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. Prosecutors dismissed previous charges against Baldwin last spring, but since then, an independent forensics test concluded that the actor must have pulled the trigger that fired the fatal bullet during a rehearsal for the movie Rust.
Once we heard that report, the question became, okay, are they going to charge him again? And we see today that they have.
If convicted, Baldwin could face up to 18 months in prison. A surprise twist today in Prince Harry's battle against the British tabloid Daily Mail. On the day he was supposed to hand over documents for the court case, Harry dropped his libel lawsuit. Harry was suing the Mail over a 2022 article which claimed the prince tried to hide his efforts to retain publicly paid security after walking away from his royal duties. Last month, a judge ruled against Harry's bid to have the newspaper's defense thrown out. Coming up, a tale of two emergency landings.
Oh my God, it's on fire. Oh my God!
One flight on fire and another forced to land on a highway. Plus, a warm salute to the cold volunteers creating community rinks. It was a turbulent day for air travel in the U.S. with some frightening moments for flyers on multiple flights. CTV's Krisa Najgate on what caused the close calls.
Oh my God, it's on fire.
Flames coming from a plane light up the night sky above Miami.
Mayday, mayday.
It was captured by Melanie Aderos while out on a walk.
I didn't know if those were pieces of plane falling off, if it was going to explode or fall out of the sky.
The Atlas Air Boeing 747 cargo plane had to quickly turn around and make an emergency landing.
As you can see the flames shooting out the back of the engine, that's indicative of a compressor stall. So once the engine starts to fail and there's not enough air going through the engine, we've got too much fuel and it starts to pop.
It happened shortly after the plane left Miami's International Airport today. All 5 crew members walked away with no injuries, and the cause of the fire is now under investigation. In Virginia, this small plane had to make an emergency landing on a busy, snowy road just minutes after takeoff.
I look up and there's a plane 20 feet above me.
Someone coming out of Home Depot said that a plane had landed up the street, and we didn't believe it.
It crashed into this guardrail, but missed power lines and street signs nearby. Traffic one side was closed for hours. No one was injured. This man said he rushed to check on the passengers.
They were, pretty much in shock. Like, what the heck just happened? This is crazy. Oh yeah, it could have been horrible. Phenomenal landing in an emergency. Just unfortunate he lost control at the end.
We just slid right off the taxiway.
And in Rochester, New York, an American Airlines plane slid off this icy runway with 50 passengers on board. All were okay.
We felt kind of a slide happening and then a lot of jolting going on.
Travel across the northern United States will be impacted yet again this weekend as the region braces for another heavy snowstorm. Krisanachkate, CTV News, Halifax.
There's also some dramatic video out of Michigan tonight of an incredible rescue by a police officer and a dog. Officer Cameron Bennett's body cam captured the frantic moments on a lake where a 65-year-old man had fallen through the ice, his dog by his side.
Send your pup here. Will she come to me? Ruby, come here. Come here, Ruby. Call her. Call her.
Ruby brought a rescue disc to his owner, and the man was pulled to safety by Bennett's and a firefighter. The man, who was in the water for 16 minutes, is doing well. Still ahead, the holiday sales rebound. Unpacking the year-end uptick in spending. The future of Sports Illustrated is uncertain tonight. Union officials say the publisher told the staff most of their jobs were being eliminated. The news comes as the iconic magazine's owner and publisher dispute a missed payment for a licensing fee. Uncertainty in Canada's retail landscape continues. The industry has whiplash since the start of the pandemic. New numbers show while November saw a decline in spending, shopping rebounded in the time before the holiday rush in December. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman.
A stroll through the aisles offers a window into the economy. People hunting for a deal.
We're like, oh, well, that one's 50 cents cheaper and it's more value or whatever.
At this market in Fredericton, spending is up. Shoppers are coming in more, but buying less.
And I think that's indicative of people not wanting to waste any food.
Statistics Canada says retail sales dropped 0.2% in November, lower than expected. The dip was led by a drop in food and beverages, while sales for cars, clothes, and electronics were up.
There's, I think, a lot of pain here being felt by a lot of households, and it's showing up in these numbers.
An early snapshot of December data shows retail sales rebounded, going up 0.8%, the largest leap since April.
Definitely was a nice little surprise for everyone.
This retail analyst notes December meant a lot of discounts.
And I think consumers were sort of waiting in the weeds, waiting for those sales to happen.
Which is why shoppers were relieved tonight to learn Loblaw is reversing a decision and will now keep the 50% off option on markdown food instead of 30%.
I'm relieved. There's no point in changing it. 30%, it was more of a greed thing, I think.
Back at this market, the sales section is almost empty.
Customers are definitely more price sensitive.
Picking up food for Friday's dinner instead of going out to save where they can. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Pop superstar Madonna is being sued by her fans for starting her shows in Brooklyn 2 hours late. The two men who filed the proposed class action suit accused Madonna of false advertising and negligent misrepresentation. According to the lawsuit, Madonna's 3 December shows at Barclays Center all began after 10:30 p.m. instead of the advertised 8:30 start time. After the break, flood heroes.
It's very meditative. You've just got the stream of water going back and forth.
Meet the volunteers keeping a Canadian tradition on ice. Skating on a frozen lake or building a backyard rink is about as Canadian as it gets. In Ottawa, hundreds of volunteers are coping with the cold to get outdoor rinks ready. And as CTV's Dave Charbonneau tells us, their hard work is paying off in communities right across the city.
So what we're doing is we're building the base for the rink.
It's a job which requires patience and the ability to withstand ice-cold temperatures. After a mild December, the January cold snap finally allowed community volunteers to flood outdoor rinks.
Typically, we are either just before Christmas or in between Christmas and January, or New Year's for the start. And this is by far the latest, and we've just been at the mercy of Mother Nature.
And what's the formula for smooth ice? Much of it is time. Volunteers say it can take up to 50 hours to get the rink ready for skaters.
Since Sunday, every day I've put in about 19,000 steps on this rink.
There are more than 250 outdoor rinks in almost every neighborhood in Ottawa. These rinks are the pride of many communities, as generations of families have skated to winter joy.
I do it because I live right across from the park, and I really love seeing this facility used to its maximum.
On this cold January day, 2 players with the Nepean Raiders have taken to the outdoor ice to sharpen skills.
It's nice. Like last year, they didn't have any rinks open, so it's nice to be out on one again. It's really nice to finally be able to come out here, because we only have 2 hours a week to play with our team. So, like, like an hour and a half more of practice really comes a long way.
These outdoor rinks are just one part of the skating experience in Ottawa. And just like the famous Rideau Canal Skateway, which depends on ongoing cold weather, especially at night.
If it rains, we sometimes have to start rebuilding the rink, or if it snows a lot. So it's really quite variable, the amount of work to maintain it.
And for the volunteers who spend countless hours making sure the ice is perfect, they say it's a rewarding experience.
It's beautiful. It's very meditative when you've got you've just got the stream of water going back and forth, and it's a lot of fun.
Dave Charbonneau, CTV News, Ottawa.
Wow, shout out to all of those volunteers. That's our show for this Friday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.